I think you should stop your trip down memory lane with the Monday Night Raws and
Oh
SmackDowns and all
no,
that. I mean, your geeky little watch through. You should replace that
it's that
with
good.
watching through Black Mirror. Yeah, bro, come on. I mean, I know we grew up with it, but 2004 Raw's kind of shit. Come on.
Well, you may have a point there.
I mean, they were talking about, you got Test and Stacy Keibler talking about testicles. I mean, come on, bro. That shit was whack.
No, that was totally 2003, Noah. Come on.
I was trying to think of something else that happened during that time. Come on, bro. They were acting like they had Eugene on there. Come on, dude.
Eugene has just begun. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I was into that shit as a kid, but now it's a little awkward.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Black Mirror.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Black Joe's MMA show preview time. Once again, I'm still gone fishing. No Baker. Coming to you from the state of Florida, Panama City Beach, that is. The man to my right, that's Dominic Slee. He's holding down the fort over there in the Midwest, Ohio, 1 hour behind me. Dominic,
Ahead of you.
Which has definitely led to some confusion a couple times
Yeah.
in scheduling our episodes. Apologies once again. This episode will be coming out just a little bit later in the day than you guys normally are used to getting them. It's been difficult trying to coordinate good times to get everything done. I'm sure you guys understand, though. Vacation and stuff. A lot of you are probably like, if you are a real Joey, if you're a real below average Joe, you're probably sitting there going, man, look at Noah putting in the work.
Exactly.
That man's on vacation.
Exactly.
He should have been taking this time off. He should have forced Dom to do everything by himself, bro. He should have forced Dom to find a co-host. But no, I do it for the people. I do it for Dom. I do it for the little Joeys, the ones that look up to us and one day hope to be just like us. So yeah, so basically I'm the most selfless person there is for making this episode late. Now, with that being said, Dominic, we have 3 cards to go over this weekend. I just love, and some big old fight announcements. I just love Vacation Noah in full effect. The MMA world decides to throw us like a 2-hour long episode just to, really keep me in this bedroom for a little bit longer. But it does make me excited for give me some viewing material either today, tomorrow, or perhaps on my ride home. I don't know when I'll be watching these cards. But with that being said, Dominic, I want to ask you how you're doing, and then we'll kick it off with little plugs, and then we'll get into Bellator. So how are you?
Life is good. Life is good, my friend. As I just kind of said, the weather is kind of taking a turn. We're finally getting some rain, though, and we do need that, but it's a little sticky. It's a little humid. So it's going to be one of those kind of cozy days, which is perfect because on this Friday, we've got Bellator, we've got PFL, so I have no issues with hunkering down and watching numerous hours of MMA. And it's a big weekend for, of course, the PFL, their second week of the second part of the season, but an even bigger night for Bellator over there in Chicago. We couldn't make it to Chicago this time around, but that's okay. Noah's partying. He's got a wedding to attend. He's a busy man that is highly valued and highly needed across the country, some would say. So we're going to watch that tonight too. It's a big weekend, Noah, and I hope you get to dabble and get to watch it as well. So I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good. I know you got a couple more days to enjoy vacation. Is it treating you well?
Vacation's been good, Dom. It has been very good. I will say yesterday was kind of the worst day. Not only was it severe thunderstorms, but Dominic, we went over to Pier Park, which was fine. I went to the beef jerky outlet, got some jerky. That's always a go-to. Then we decided to eat at a place that it's expensive, but it's a place you kind of have to eat when you're in somewhere a little more tropical, a little Margaritaville action. Like Margaritaville, just a very, it's a safe spot, it's expensive, but it makes you cozy. They got live music, you're eating outside. It's good stuff. And you get margaritas in a blender. It's great stuff. That's what I did. It was awesome. However, this was the experience from hell, Dominic. when I went up and put our name in, I said, "What's the wait?" And he goes, "About an hour." I'm like, "Ugh." I'm like, "Really, an hour?"
Mm.
He goes, 45 minutes to an hour. Now, I didn't know, Dom, when he said that he was actually combining the two because it was about an hour, 45 minutes before we got seated.
Mm.
And, we just did not have the best service. It was taken. Hey, look, anybody who's watching who has done that job before, I am not blaming our server for anything. It is just a reality that she was not at the table very much.
Mm.
So whether it was because they were understaffed, maybe she had too much going on. I don't know what it was. Maybe she sucks at her job. I doubt that though.
Right.
But I'm just saying it was what it was. Not the best time. But disappointing. But besides that, Dominic, every day here has been banger after banger. We're making friends left and right down here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I got guys talking to me about their 12-year-old sons playing football.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just really, really immersing myself with the locals here.
I told you would fit right into the Florida mold. I knew you would come out of this week as a Florida man. I just knew it.
I have gotten no closer to going to the Everglades though, and taking on a Burmese python. Actually, I never even looked it up. I assume it's very far away from here, but I do
I
not
think
know.
so.
But let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Plug all platforms and release schedule. I did not need to read that straight from script, but you can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok at the BAJ MMA. You can follow myself on Twitter, Instagram at Noah Baker MMA. You can follow Dominic on Twitter, Instagram at DSlee14. We will be putting our full Blazin Bets on the Below Average Joe's Twitter. I think Dominic typically puts a little screenshot on Instagram. And then sometimes I'll put my own picks on my Twitter page. That will not, of course, be happening this weekend. Thank you very much, Florida. But also, if you'd like to listen to audio versions of the podcast, you can do so. We're at the Below Average Joe's MMA show on Spotify, on Apple. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can do so at the Below Average Joe's. Dominic, I think that pretty much covers everything. Release schedule, it's a little up in the air for our recap coming out on Monday. I will be driving, making part of the trip back Sunday. We will be staying somewhere overnight and then finishing the drive Monday. So, maybe that means, Father's Day is also Sunday, so Dominic also has stuff going on. Might turn into us doing it when I get home Monday and then we just put it out Tuesday. Like it's up in the air right now.
Yeah, it could depend on hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
because more than
intangibles.
likely I'll be staying with the people I'm with, so I can't
Mhm.
really do it in the hotel room with them.
Mhm.
And maybe we do it before I leave Sunday, but
Yeah.
we're probably leaving around. It's going to be tough. So
It's
it
all
might be
TBD.
we might push it back a day. Just if you follow us on social media, Doc always puts something out there to let people know when there's a delay. But then we'll be right back to normal after that. I'll be back to work, ready to just so happy, and
Right.
we'll go from there. Did I cover everything, Dominic?
Yes. And now we hit the triple header.
Yeah, we start with Bellator 297, Dominic, the biggest card of the weekend, 2 title fights. We start with the light heavyweight title. Champion Vadim Nemkov comes in at a minus 520.
Yeah.
Talk to him, Vadim. And he's taking on 46-year-old soldier of God, Yoel Romero, plus 410. He's ranked number 3 in the division. Dominic, Yoel Romero, one of the bigger signings for Bellator the past few years. It has been a rocky road to get here, but Bellator has managed to get him into a title fight against Nemkov. Nemkov, of course, defeated Cory Anderson back in November when we went to when we went to Bellator in Chicago. So we have not. So Nemkov doing back-to-back Chicago shows for Bellator. That was, of course, the fight where, even though he was still champion going into that fight with Cory Anderson, I think he felt like a big underdog there just due to the way the first fight went between those two. and he came out and looked a lot better, Dominic. He was defending takedowns very well. He was using a lot more movement, it seemed like, with his feet. And yeah, he looked great. And I mean, he's always, before that first Corey Anderson fight, he had looked just dominant in Bellator's light heavyweight division. And these odds speak to it, Dom, because as good as Yoel Romero is, and as crazy as it is that he is still this genetic freak at 46 years old, still capable of doing so much, it feels like, as big of a fight as this is, it also feels like inevitable that, Nemkov's not really going to lose his title here. That Yoel Romero, while he's terrifying, scary, and capable of doing something amazing in this fight, it also feels like that's not what's going to happen, because we've just seen less and less of that out of Yoel over the last couple years. Is that sort of how you feel about this fight? Like, do you feel like you sort of agree with the odds makers here, putting Nemkov at such an inflated favorite?
Yeah, so when I first saw the odds, I was a bit taken back. Like, wow, those are some big numbers for such a big name guy in Yoel to come in at plus 400. But then you really do look at what Vadim has been able to do here. 8-0, inside of the Bellator cage. He's a champion. I mean, gosh, he's beaten Ryan Bader. He's beaten Phil Davis twice. He's beaten Corey Davis. Or I'm sorry, Corey Anderson. I'm getting names mixed up because they're fighting each other this weekend. But he's beaten all these guys. And I very much view and hold Vadim in very high regard. I think he's one of the best light heavyweights in the world across all promotions. I think he's just very talented. He's very high level. He's a very intelligent fighter, and he's good at negating people's strengths. And the strengths of Yoel is just that explosiveness and that power. He's shown it in 2 straight third-round finishes, but it's still, before those finishes occur for Yoel, a very slow, plodding, not super active Yoel Romero. And I don't know if him just having that explosive power is enough to beat one of the most well-rounded fighters inside of the Bellator organization right now. So I understand these odds upon further review, and the more and more that I let them simmer and that I thought about it. And I just think Vadim is that damn good, and he is right now in his prime. Yoel's, physical physique aside, 46 years old, with a lot of experience in combat sports, does take a factor. That wear and tear is a thing, and I think it may show for the first time really in Bellator to a certain degree in this title fight here with Vadim Nemkov, Noah.
Do you favor this fight to go any other way but to be pretty dull? Like, for some reason, I just look at this fight and I'm not expecting a great fight here, because I don't really see Nemkov starching Yoel to the point where he's like knocking him down and potentially finishing him. Yoel's just so damn tough and just such a freak that it's just, I can't even imagine him being compromised that way. But I definitely could see Nemkov just outworking him for 5 rounds and taking a pretty lopsided decision. That just seems to be the way this fight most likely goes. And that kind of sucks. Like, it kind of, it's the headlining bout here. But Dominic, it doesn't really feel like it has the same level of interest and intrigue as that co-main event. So especially the co-main event's champion versus champion, that's also just another surprising factor for why this is kind of getting that headlining bill. Obviously, Bellator sort of believes in this. They believe in the talent of Nemkov. They believe he is one of the best light heavyweights in the world. And then you got Yoel Romero, who was a big free agent signing for them, who's obviously still capable of doing really good things at 46 years old. I just don't think there's a good recipe here for a great fight. Is that sort of your feeling?
No, that's definitely accurate. I just, again, with the way that Yoel's been fighting, yes, he has had 2 finishes in a row, but they are in the third after not doing much leading into those, and that just won't get it done against Vadim. But like Noah said, when does Yoel get finished? The guy's got 6 losses, 5 of them are by decision. I don't even remember when that KO TKO loss occurred for him, and Vadim is just so methodical and intelligent, man. So he's not going to put himself in danger. He's going to pick his shots, plot his footwork and movement very well, very methodically. And I think that leads to a more than likely chance of a 5-round decision victory and title defense for Nemkov.
Okay. And I think from there we'll move to the co-main event, Dominic, champion versus champion. Sergio Pettis looking to, for the first time, defend that men's flyweight or bantamweight title, excuse me, as he will be taking on the featherweight champion, Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull
Ooh.
does come in, though, Dominic, minus 195 favorite, Pettis at plus 165. It's been a long time since we've seen Sergio Pettis, Dominic. He won this belt in a fight against Kyoji Horiguchi where he was getting dominated for about, I think it was the better part of 4 rounds before landing a spinning back fist, was it? Yeah, he lands a spinning back fist and just put Horiguchi out cold. Just a crazy knockout. Just crazy fight, crazy ending to that fight. And then you did the Grand Prix, right? So the Grand Prix came after, Bantamweight Grand Prix, which was stacked with talent. Unfortunately, we never got to see Sergio defend his belt in that Grand Prix. He gets injured. He is pulled from the Grand Prix. So we have not seen him since, what was that, December 2021?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So it's been over about a year and a half. It seems like, Dominic, no matter who of the credible title challengers that Pettis could be fighting here, you got Pitbull. We'll have who might forget. Well, I was gonna say Rafael Stotts, but he lost to
Patchy Mix will be facing the winner.
So Patchy Mix, like it seems like even a Rafael Stotts, like the winner of Sabatello and Magomedov, like it feels like any of those guys, tell me if you feel otherwise, would be betting favorites against Sergio Pettis. Like,
I think so.
I get the sense that Sergio Pettis is not looked at as a long-term champion in this bantamweight division. That bantamweight's just too good to have someone that is talented in Sergio Pettis, but not maybe great, or at least not great enough in all aspects of MMA to be a long-standing champion. I get the sense that a lot of people view his win over Horiguchi to be somewhat of a fluke. And you even look at the way Horiguchi has sort of had a good Bellator run, but not quite as dominant or as like full of wins as maybe some of us thought it might have before. He's sort of, he's lost to a couple guys that have proven to just be ahead of him in the rankings right now. So if Pettis struggled so much with him, it makes you think that, well, he would struggle with a lot of these guys, even though MMA math doesn't really work like that. Sergio Pettis is he's fighting for a lot of things here, Dominic, because not only is he looking to defend that belt, but he's still trying to get out of the shadow of his brother. And now is the time to do it if you're Sergio. Anthony Pettis' MMA career has sort of spun out. It's sort of dead in its tracks right now. It seems to be all but done. I mean, he did just last fight in a boxing fight against Roy Jones Jr., which is still, what a fucking weird fight that was. But he's not really competing in MMA at a high level right now.
Sure.
And you got Sergio, who is a champion for the second or third biggest promotion in the world. It seems like now's the time for him to really etch his name in MMA glory and MMA history books. But it's going to be a challenge to do so because he's going to have to go through, in his first title defense, the best fighter Bellator's ever had.
Yeah, exactly.
Patricio Pitbull, one of the best fighters to never step foot in a UFC octagon. We're talking about a guy who's won gold in 2 different divisions, Dominic. Featherweight's where he currently resides, but he's been a lightweight champion. He's going for bantamweight. Dominic, he's even saying if he wins here, he wants to go down to flyweight.
Oh boy,
potentially challenge for that title. And they showed a picture of him from already on weight, and it's kind of scary to look at him because he's usually so much thicker than he looks right now.
Yeah,
but he doesn't look bad. Like he doesn't look sunken in.
Yeah, it was a weird.
Like it's weird. Like he doesn't look like on death's bed, but he also looks kind of scary just because you're usually used to him being more filled out. And
it was the head to body ratio was really throwing me off.
Something was off with that picture, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is the fight that I'm most excited for the entire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Pitbull gives him a chance to be, I believe, the first man to ever win 3 division titles for a major MMA promotion. And for Sergio, a win here definitely gets him a step closer to sort of putting himself out of his brother's shadow. Dominic, what do you make of this one?
Oh, it absolutely does. That's the storyline here. This one has those storylines for this weekend. Like you said, Sergio trying to get out of the shadow of Anthony, and he can do that here. Not only would he advance to 5-0 in Bellator, but this is like a legitimate big time win. Because you were right. I think a lot of people hold that title victory over Horiguchi as a fluke, and I think that points out to why you think those others, and I would agree with you, by the way, would be favorites over Sergio. That is because of the way that he won the title, right? He was losing that fight all the way up until, he lands a spinning back fist. And how often do you see those types of knockouts here? So if he can beat Patricio Pitbull, the greatest fighter that Bellator's ever had in their organization, that's a big deal. He separates himself from the pack. He separates himself from Anthony, and he begins to cement his own legacy here, gets a title defense under his belt. And you got to think too, and this could be a Monday conversation, especially if he wins, flyweight is being introduced to the Bellator promotion, like Noah said, for Pitbull's interest. But it makes more sense for Sergio Pettis to maybe pursue a second belt at flyweight, because that is his original weight class where he was in the UFC, and he did pretty well there as well. So there's a lot of things on the line for Sergio. While there are still a lot of things on the line for Pitbull, his legacy's already cemented, right? A double champion, all the wins, the resume that he has in Bellator is uncanny. It's unmatched. If he gets a third belt, he probably goes down as the greatest fighter ever in Bellator, and it won't even be touched for a very, very long time, that is, even with a merger of the PFL, if that happens. So there's a lot to take in here, and it's a shame that it still feels like we haven't got to hear much about it, because this is a really, really big night for Bellator. This is a really, really big fight for Bellator, one of the biggest that they'll have really in the company's history, and especially in 2023, because you don't get many champ versus champion matchups in that promotion.
No, you don't get that much in any promotion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're getting it a lot in the UFC either. I do find that interesting, Dominic. We both have mentioned how Patricio, if he wins, wants to go down to flyweight even. Now, we'll see how much of a reality that is. I mean, I find it hard to believe the man would be able to drop down another 10 pounds, but I was shocked when he was fighting for a bantamweight title to begin with. But I guess what I'll find interesting is if he wins here, does he defend the title, or does he simply go to flyweight, or does he continue at it's for him just winning the title all that he's looking to do, or is he looking to win and defend? Because if he's not, then Dominic, we could have a complete opening no matter who wins this fight, because Sergio, I believe, is eventually going to drop down to flyweight. Like, I believe that's eventually going to happen. But for Patricio, he has even less of a reason, it feels like, to stay at bantamweight. Like, he seems to be chasing the glory, the division titles. A title defense at bantamweight does not do anything for him, at least as it appears, unless he just wants to challenge himself against, some really good fighters in that division.
Him and Patchy.
Yeah, Patchy mix, like, that'd be an awesome fight. But you also could look at it like, well, I could go down 10 more pounds and be much bigger against a guy like Horiguchi or whoever. So it'll be interesting to see, like, as big of a fight as this feels, it could be virtually like a time capsule to this moment in time, and really not have big ramifications on the future of the weight class outside of the fact that we could just have a complete opening there after this fight.
Yeah, that's true. It feels like a lot of the importance of this fight relies on what's going to come after the fight takes place. So
and that's not like a negative for me. Like, I know a lot of promoters hate when, Dana's always talking about he hates when champions retire and all this shit. I think there's a lot of investment for me in this. So I have no issue with, like, both guys if they have aspirations to go down or whatever. It just makes it interesting that we may not be really speculating on guys for them to fight next at bantamweight, even though they're fighting for the bantamweight title. It's very interesting. But With that, Dominic, we will get into the rest of Bellator 297. A pretty good card for
It
Bellator
is.
here, I would say. I
Yeah.
mean, I shouldn't say pretty good. It's a very good card. 4-fight main card. Then you got a bunch of prelims on here, Dominic. I saw Archie Colgan on the card taking on
Yes,
Emmanuel
sir.
Sanchez. So Dominic's putting together that heavy
Mm.
favorite Bellator parlay. But I'm Cory Anderson, Phil Davis, Dominic. Two UF veterans, but two guys that are probably by this point, starting to become more known for their time in Bellator. And this fight feels like it does have pretty big stakes to it for that light heavyweight title discussion, especially for Cory Anderson. With this fight, do you see the implications there, or do you feel like the winner of this doesn't really have a shot to be kind of next in line?
Yeah, you see, that's what's interesting about this one because it is an important fight for what's next for these guys. I mean, what is this? This is like number one versus number two. I mean, literally any other time you see that, it's a number one contender fight, right? But if you really look here, Cory Anderson is coming off back-to-back fights with Vadim Nemkov, the last one being a loss. The first one was, of course, the no contest, which it looked like Cory was en route to winning. So maybe you could argue, of course, let's run it back a third time there. And for Phil Davis, he has already lost to Vadim Nemkov twice inside of the Bellator cage. So can he get that third opportunity here? I mean, again, though, if he wins this, that would be 3 straight victories. Yoel Romero, Julius Anglickas, and then number one ranked Cory Anderson. I think it's still hard to deny him. So I want to say that regardless of kind of how they both have been there and done that with Vadim, and of course, that's assuming Vadim wins. Yoel could, of course, become the champion as well. But I still think, regardless, I'll go out and say the winner will get another shot at a title. I think.
Well, shit, Dominic. Even if Yoel wins, didn't we see Yoel and Phil Davis already
Yeah,
fighting? That fight
Phil
was
beat
fucking
Yoel.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yoel thought the fight was 3 rounds, or no, he thought it was 5 rounds,
Yes,
wasn't it? Or
yes, he
something like
did.
that. I mean, come on, man. Like, I don't know if I need to see that again. I mean, I feel like Phil Davis win here is like the worst outcome. I mean, I don't want to see either of those fights again. No, but I do think it's a high level fight, and it does
Yeah.
feel like a fight that's going to go under the radar,
Yes.
but it does have implications. They put it on this card for a reason. In all likelihood, if Yoel or Nemkov had not been able to fight here, one of those two guys was stepping into that main event.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, that means that Bellator likely feels strong enough about the winner of this fight to where they feel like maybe that would carry another pay-per-view. Maybe that at least puts him one away. I don't know, but I do think that for Cory Anderson, I think his case is pretty clear, Dominic, because I know the first fight's a no contest, but he looked so good there that I think it warrants it's kind of like Moreno and Figgy won as a draw, but I think a lot of people kind of look at it like, well, that's sort of the fight Figgy sort of won, and then second fight Moreno wins, third fight Figgy wins, fourth fight Moreno
Right.
wins. Like it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like they sort
Yeah.
of, it was a draw, but it kind of felt like, okay, maybe Figgy edged it out. I think there was a point taken at some point in that
Right.
fight. You get my point. It's it seems like there's still room for a trilogy there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it felt like that rematch that we got to see was, while it was a decisive win for Vadim, it felt like it was more so because he was able to make so many adjustments that not a lot of people saw coming. Who's to say Cory couldn't turn around in a trilogy with Vadim and do the same thing? So yeah.
Yeah. And Dominic, following Daniel James' first time in the main event spot, where they followed a second round TKO win with a face off with heavyweight champion Ryan Bader. That's right. They follow that up with having Daniel James fight Gokhan Saricam, I think, as we all expected. So, Dominic, they put Daniel James back in front of the Chicago crowd.
Yeah.
Can I tell you how fearful I am that he's going to lose here?
Oh, it'd be such a shame.
But doesn't it kind of feel like that's what would happen? Like, we're going to sit here and be like, why is he fighting Gokhan Saricam? Why is he not fighting for the title? Why is he not in a bigger fight,
Yeah.
in front of that Chicago crowd? And that totally feels like the kind of fight that he's about to lose. Like, even though
Yes.
he should win this, but I'm just saying, it just feels like the makings are here. It's kind of like what Beneil Dariush, what just happened to him.
Yeah.
Like right when you're on the precipice, it feels like this is the kind of fight where he will sink.
Yeah, he literally, Daniel James, that is, had the title fight in his grasp. They literally, Ryan Bader acknowledged it and said that's the fight to make. And then what do? Oh, let's just go ahead and put Daniel James back in Chicago anyways and let him fight the number 10 ranked guy. I really hope for his sake that he does not lose this, because then, of course, he's undeniable to get the next shot. And gosh, man, if he were to lose here, that would be such a shame when they already had the built-in title fight and the storyline and the back and forth, the friendly banter. It would really suck. It's obviously an opportunity for Gokhan to make a stand here with his 4-2 run he's had thus far in Bellator. But, Daniel James, also the betting underdog. I know Noah can't bet, but I have to think that would usually tickle his fancy if he was able to bet this weekend. So we'll see what he comes in and does here in front of the hometown
Who's the betting underdog?
Daniel James is plus 110, Gokhan minus 130.
This is what I'm talking about, Dominic. I mean, we're fucked because
yeah.
Look, no disrespect to Mr. Saricam, but we gotta root for our guy. We have to.
He's got to get his chance, man.
We just want a chance, Dom.
Mm-hmm.
But that plus money, Vegas knows. They know what's happening. It's on the wall. The writing's on the wall. That right when he's about to earn it in front of his people, he's gonna end up face down, ass up.
Oh gosh.
No, I'm being a little facetious.
We have to be afraid, though.
I'm talking through it. I'm coping right now.
Yes, of course.
Anything else on Bellator 297, Dominic, for you that's tickling you a little bit?
In terms of storylines, no. I mean, Noah mentioned Archie Colgan. I'll talk about him a little bit later in the show, but it's a good prelims as well. There's ranked fighters up and down the entire card. I think it's 14 or 15 fights, so it's going to be a long night in Chicago, but we wouldn't have it any other way. It's a big card for him.
Dominic always says no storylines to discuss, even though, Dominic, I'm just asking if there's any fight that interests you at all. So
Archie Colgan, baby. But again, save that.
That I do not know what Vegas we are on. This is headlining Marvin Vettori taking on Jared Cannonier, headlining UFC Vegas. What is that number, Dominic?
75. 3/4 of the way to 100, Noah.
Yeah, I definitely had 76 on my sheet. Everybody just mind your business. Let me just lean back here, out of frame.
It's vacay mode.
My right leg is like completely dead, and it has been for about 20 minutes. So this is how I'm going to sit. No, but main event in the Apex, the world-renowned Apex, Marvin Vettori taking on Jared Cannonier. A pretty big fight in the middleweight division. But it feels big with a caveat, Dom. It feels big in the sense of if Israel Adesanya was not currently the champion again in that division, this fight would feel much bigger.
Sure.
If Alex Pereira had beaten Israel Adesanya a few months ago, I think this fight would feel 10 times bigger than it does. Because as it stands, you have two guys who have lost to Israel Adesanya for the title. Yep. Marvin Vettori's lost to him twice.
Yep.
Only once for the belt. But because of that, Dominic, you sort of wonder what's really at stake here for these guys. And since, you keep hitting that storyline term, I'm hoping, Dominic, you're going to be the guy to paint that picture and tell everyone, what is the real thing to sink your teeth into with this fight? What's the X? What's the O? What's the Joe?
Something's got to go. That's such a good point. And I've seen people talking about this, like in the MMA community on Twitter, like traditionally number 3 versus number 4, they have very similar wins and losses over the past few fights as well. Like in terms of who they've lost to, Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya are the last 2 losses for both of these guys. They both lost to Izzy in title fights. Like there's a lot of similarities here because it seems like both guys are beating everybody else that's not named Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. And if that doesn't really show the state of this division and really the state it's been in the past few years, I don't know what does. So we've got number 3, number 4. We've got a minus 125 money line here for Marvin Vettori. A lot of people are kind of thrown off by these odds as well. I've seen a lot of people on the Cannonier side. This was the one that I didn't want to touch. I don't know if this fight's going to end in the first round or go all the way 25 minutes. I don't know if it's going to be Vettori winning a decision, Jared Cannonier winning a decision, getting a knockout. I don't know. There's a lot of outcomes here, but it seems the decision is likely the way it's going to go. We have 2 very durable fellas here that don't traditionally get finished. this is a razor, close matchup for me. And Marvin Vettori, we've talked about a lot too, Noah, about how at still only 29 years old, we feel that him being a champion is still in the future. It is in the cards for him, but Israel Adesanya still sits atop the throne. So what does he do in the meantime? He just has to keep trying to beat every other single person. And Jared Cannonier is that next step up for him after his big win against Roman Dolidze. And for Cannonier, kind of the complete opposite, right? I mean, what is he now? He's 39 years old, so time is not on his side, but he's proving that he can still beat these other guys, Gastelums, Brunsons, Sean Strickland's over the course of 5 rounds even. So I don't know if I have a lean here. I don't know even if a title fight comes next year, but this is a win that keeps them relevant. Relevancy is the storyline, I think, for me in this one. Who can remain relevant when we have a long-standing, long-reigning champion that is an Israel Adesanya?
I love Marvin Vettori in this spot, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I think there's one particular reason for that, which goes, it's not much of a X or no. It's not much about the styles here that are making this fight. It's age, Dom. You just mentioned it. Marvin Vettori, 29 years old, in the prime of his career, only getting better, really, at this point. Jared Cannonier is what, 37?
39.
39. My God.
10
That's
years
even older than I thought.
Yeah.
He is inevitably going to drop off. Like it is coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably already started and we just haven't really noticed that much. But this will be the fight that'll really show it if it is the case. Now, Marvin Vettori did, by the skin of his teeth, get through Roman Dolidze, right? So, and a lot of people thought he lost that fight. I don't know if you've noticed that, because remember, I got him on the live odds.
That's all that matters, baby.
I know, I got him on the live odds at like plus 300.
Was it 300? I think. Yeah,
I think it was. And because I was like, I think it's 1-1 going into the third.
Exactly.
A lot of people thought Marvin Vettori had like lost both those rounds. I don't know, it was weird, but that's why you guys should live bet. Just more than you put in bets in advance. Just live bet, man. You can win a lot of money. But with that being said, like I did not look at that Marvin Vettori performance against Dolidze as being lackluster at all. I thought it was a hard fought win against a tough guy in Dolidze. Now I think a lot of people sort of are discrediting Dolidze. So I get the sense that, maybe I can speak for him, Dominic, because I have been called a time or two Marvin Vettori's big brother on the show.
Yeah.
Due to our
I've never noticed
similarity.
the uncanniness.
Due to the similarity in our looks, apparently. But as his big brother, I feel entitled to defend him a little bit here.
Yeah.
No, but in all honesty, like I really like him in the spot. It is a play on the age for sure. Like the actual styles, you're kind of right. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't really know how to lean. You think Vettori may try to take this fight to the ground, but he's shown a willingness to use his power and keep fights standing over the last couple of years. Not sure if he's going to want to test that with Cannonier or not. That's why I sort of lean Vettori is more so for the age factor here, Dominic. That's my big takeaway coming in.
Well, and I just want to, since you kind of asked, what is it for you, like the outcome of this fight, the winner of this fight? Is there something for them to look forward to, or is it just, all right, I'm able to stay amongst the top for now?
How surprised would you be? There's no secret that the UFC want Israel Adesanya to headline in Sydney, right?
Yeah,
That's September, I believe.
Yep.
Everybody keeps questioning the fact that Robert Whittaker and Dricus are fighting in July, the first on International Fight Week. Probably going to be too quick of a turnaround.
Yeah.
And when Dana's been asked about this, he said, "Oh no, we have plans. We have plans in place," which tells me, okay, they have something figured out, or they're working on something. My whole big thing this whole time has been, I think it's going to be Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight title.
Yeah.
But then I also wonder why it's not been announced yet.
True.
Well, Dominic, is it possible that they are waiting to potentially put the winner of this fight as the headliner in Sydney? Which I think a lot of people would look at and go, that feels like kind of like a fart in church. Like it'd just be like,
Yeah.
Well, that feels kind of dull. But like if Marvin Vettori wins, like he has the win streak that you would give someone a title fight based off, and he has the wins in the division over guys you would give a title
Yeah,
fight to. The problem is he's just lost Adesanya twice.
of course.
So in either fight, I mean, the first fight was competitive, but the last one was not so competitive.
Right.
So, and it wasn't particularly fun to watch. So that's the only thing that would hold them back from giving the winner of this fight another shot. Cannonier, similar thing. He's only fought Izzy once, but it was a very dull fight where he did not go for it.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
interesting.
it kind of feels like the winner of this could be in play for that Sydney headliner spot. But I think the majority of the MMA fans are not wanting that.
Yeah.
So, but the UFC have shown to just push through and not really, sometimes they care what the fans think. Sometimes they kind of just believe in what they want to do. So,
Yeah, that's true. We're going to find out.
yeah, let's get into the rest of UFC Vegas. What was that number again, Dominic? Can you remind me one more time?
75.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Dominic, you hit me with one of the hardest MMA trivia questions of all time, some people are saying. When you talked about Arman Tsarukyan and Armen Petrosyan fight one after another here, Arman Tsarukyan is in your co-main event taking on Joaquim Silva, Dominic. Has this fight grown on you at all coming in, or do you still look at it as like this is Arman's smash all the way?
Yeah, it definitely hasn't grown on me, but I love the fact that I can play Arman on some bets and stuff for the weekend.
What's
So
his
does
price tag right now? What's his
he is well, actually, I'm going to have you guess first if you didn't see it across the bottom yet. I'm going to have you
I'm going to
guess.
say I have not seen it, I've not looked, but people will say I'm lying anyways. Minus 750.
Minus 1050 is
Well, then why would you even put that shit on a cracker, dude? What are you
you
talking
already
about?
know the chalk parlays coming for Blazin Bets. But anyways, yeah, the fight doesn't make sense. But Noah, when we first talked about this, you made the point of it's happening because maybe just no one wants to fight Arman, right? And he's just wanting to stay active. He wants to take a fight. And so here you go. While he is taking a chance here on a substantial upset for Silva to beat him, all signs point toward not only an Arman victory, but I would like to think an Arman smash. And I think he wants to really prove a point that he wants to get into the contention talks as quickly as possible. I have a quick stat here. I put this down for my bets, even though I didn't necessarily use it just yet. But 6 of the last 7 UFC favorites, which were minus 1050 or minus 1100 or greater, all won by finish. The only person that didn't was Dean Barry when he got disqualified against Mike Jackson. So basically, this type of betting line, this type of number means that the favorite, Arman, in this circumstance, should absolutely roll and should dominate this fight if history means anything here. And I know MMA math doesn't always work as well, but that's a pretty recurring theme. Arman putting it on the line in a big win doesn't really do much for him besides remaining active and getting cage time, Noah.
Yeah, I mean that's really all it comes down to. That's what he's taking this for. I will just say for Joaquim Silva, the one thing that he's shown consistency in his UFC career, he's 5-3, by the way, is he's sort of got a kill or be killed attitude. All but I guess early on he had a couple decisions, but his last 4 fights have all ended in KO TKO.
Mm-hmm.
That TKO against Jesse Ronson in his last fight, I remember being pretty good. He does have a KO win over Jared Gordon Dom.
Mm-hmm.
2 KO losses to Ricky Glenn and Nasrat Haqparast. He also has a decision loss to Vince Pichel. He's fought some good competition in this division. So has he fought anybody on Arman's caliber? I would probably argue no, just based off of the people I just mentioned. But I think would it surprise me if Silva were able to get to a decision and at least make, a decent effort here? No. But I do think the most likely outcome is Arman finishes him and does it pretty thoroughly for however long it lasts.
Yeah, I think I would agree. And Noah, I wanted to touch on one more fight just in case you didn't have any in the brain, just because, again, it's not like the deepest of those fight nights. But I
Yeah.
actually really think and this is my prediction of fight of the night, that Christian Leroy Duncan and Armen Petrosyan is going to be a can't miss fight.
Oh,
So if you're watching this card,
yeah.
I think this is
Anybody
a
should be
banger.
looking. Yeah, people should be. I mean, this feels more like it's going to be Christian Leroy Duncan's debut because his last
Yes.
one ended so abruptly with the leg injury. Wasn't it a leg injury?
Yeah, for Dusko, because
Yeah.
we got like a minute and 50 seconds of like, okay, Christian Leroy Duncan, the Cage Warriors champion, is pretty damn good. But
Mhm.
he gets a finish win, but it wasn't a finish win. That
Right.
injury happens to Dusko. So now he's getting to, bounce back here and against Armen Petrosyan. This dude is always in bangers. I remember going back to that Gregory Rodriguez fight thinking, how in the fuck did neither one of these guys get
Yeah, that was
finished in that
crazy.
one? And he's a very high level fighter, 8-2. He's a Contender Series alum. I just think, guys, if you're looking for any diamonds in the rough or anything else on this card of note, you have to watch Christian Leroy Duncan and Armen Petrosyan. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Not a ton of other fights to preview. I will say Pat Sabatini and Lucas Almeida, I think, will be a lot of fun. I think that could be a real banger. Jimmy Flick back, Dom.
The brick.
We go way back with Jimmy Flick, even though his comeback fight from retirement did not go very well. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this card. There is some fun fight material, like Nicholas Dalby,
Right.
Muslim Salikov. That could be a lot of fun. But as far as previewing it, Dominic, I think we'll save some of this for the recap. What do you say? Or
sir.
Blazin Bets, depending on what Dominic's got for us. So
good point.
With that, let's move into the PFL. PFL 5.
The third and final.
Coming up. Third and final.
Of the weekend, the third card.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of went out of order. This card is on Friday along with Bellator, UFC on Saturday, but we won't really order our cards by when they happen. It's more so what interests us. Yeah, importance. Yeah. So PFL 5, heavyweights, women's light or women's featherweights, the two best divisions in PFL.
Right.
Headliner Ante Dalia, last season's champion, gets to finally make his debut for this season. He does so against Maurice Green, one of John Jones' teammates.
Yeah.
And then for the women's featherweight side, Larissa Pacheco taking on Amber Leibrock. Dominic, Ante Dalia. I think the big storyline here for me, there actually is a storyline here. Also, by the way, Biagio Ali Walsh, the grandson of Muhammad Ali, once again competing on here. The storyline for me is, can Ante Dalia put up a good enough performance to get into the playoffs, considering he's going to do it in one fight. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see when it comes time. PFL does a good job of kind of painting a picture. When it comes time for a fight, they'll tell you what they need. They need a second round finish to get in. They'll be cutting to the back and showing the person who's in the position right now. Last weekend was a great example of that, Dominic, with Loughnane. When Jesus Pinedo got that knockout and Chris Wade was in the back looking a little bit shocked by it all because he just missed out on the playoffs. Anything else that's really sticking out to you here? Because I do think Dalia, I do think Maurice Green's had a tough go with things like in UFC, but he looked pretty good for PFL last time out. And if Ante Dalia needs like a quick finish here, this could get very interesting if Maurice Green's able to hold out just a little bit longer. Like I do think that's a fight that could be pretty intriguing. I'm also looking forward to Renan Ferreira and Matthias Scheffel. Renan Ferreira, for some reason, I'm just always excited for him to fight.
He's just such a
boomer bust guy. I'm always excited for him, and then half the time he just gets his ass kicked. But that's cool too. It's kind of like Bob Sapp. He's like the modern day Bob Sapp.
Of course.
Anything else on here?
Yeah, man. I'm actually pretty intrigued with Larissa Pacheco and Amber Leibrock here because Larissa didn't have an easy go in that featherweight fight, her first one with Julia Budd. Julia Budd held her all and had some decent moments, which she's on this card later on as well, and she needs a big win to try and make the playoffs. But then you pair Larissa's first fight, in this featherweight season with what Amber Leibrock did. Noah, she had the biggest performance of the entire division. Star-making performance, the quick six, the head kick KO knocked Martina Gingerva's head into the damn front row of that arena here. And now she gets to fight against Larissa Pacheco. She's a long, rangy, and a clearly powerful kickboxer here, 5'11". I mean, I know the record's only 7-4, but she's got experience in Invicta. She's been in Bellator. This could be another. And I don't know the betting lines because we're not allowed to freaking bet on PFL in Ohio for some dumbass reason, which is annoying. But I would love to see the betting lines here. If anybody knows, let us know in the comments. Amber could put up a big time fight here. I'm very intrigued to see how this one plays out.
I'm not gonna lie, just because I'd probably put money on Lee Brock just because
Yeah,
she's gonna be a heavy underdog.
I'd say at least plus
Plus
600. I'd say
500 or
yeah,
600, yeah, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting card. I mean, Dominic's favorite fighter, Aspen Ladd's taking on
Of course,
Carolina Sobek did the
the fight I
Carolina
care about
thing.
most of the whole weekend.
Yeah, Julia Budd competing against the woman who got knocked out. The losers against
Yeah,
that top of the billing there, Julia Budd, Martina Jindrova. Can Julia Budd put together a complete performance here? She looked good
yeah.
against Larissa Pacheco. Like Julia Budd's had a weird run so far with the PFL,
Mm-hmm.
coming off the fact that she was a long-term Bellator featherweight champion, lost it to Cyborg, and it feels like Dominic, she was sort of heading into obscurity.
Yeah.
Some light there's a flash there with Larissa Pacheco, but it didn't get her any points. Now's a chance for her to kind of bounce back and put herself in a much better position to potentially make the playoffs. I think that'd be pretty cool. So,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, not the two best divisions,
Yeah.
but I think it could lead to being a pretty fun card, though. If I'm being honest, it was. I think this was the card that we ended up liking the most of the three in the first
From the
run.
first run, yeah. Yeah, and you're right. Like, we need to keep the momentum because last week was thankfully a very big card for the PFL that they needed. We want to have some momentum these last 2 weeks as well.
Let's get Ngannou on the broadcast. Damn it!
Yeah, please. Come on, guys. What are we doing?
Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, don't do it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, come on. Let's get into the fight announcements, Dominic.
Oh boy. Oh boy. It's the Dana bomb, Noah.
When Dana starts coming with we're going live in 5 minutes, and usually it ends up being like 25 minutes later. you know he cooking up something, dog. It ain't fucking Friday, but he cooking up something, dog, in that kitchen. I'm just gonna go through the fights real quick, Dominic, and then you can tell me the good, the bad, the ugly. A lot of main events here being announced. August 5th, UFC Nashville. Confirmed. Cory Sandhagen taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. Wow. I mean, just a fight that we were not prepared to be talking about now. Maybe like a year from now.
Yeah.
Not yet. Like the fact that this is now, like, it's
I'm
crazy.
like so intrigued.
UFC 292, August 19th. Geoff Neal, Ian Machado-Garry. How about, Dominic, UFC Singapore, August 26th. Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie, the fight Dominic said he did not want to see.
Yeah.
Has his thoughts changed? I got a sense of no there, but we will find. I don't want to spoil it, though. UFC Paris.
They're back.
Will be going back. Saricam versus the polar bear, Sergey Spivak. Not sure if there's any polar bears in Paris, Dominic, but we're about to get one September 2nd.
There's the storyline for that one.
But Dominic, a lot of big fights there. Mostly headliners that were announced. And then you have, of course, a really fascinating fight with Geoff Neal and Ian Machado-Garry. What sticks out to you there? Good, bad, ugly?
Oh man, I mean, I guess I'll say this is my ugly if I had to pick one. It's fan favorites. It's two guys that have been there and done that and somehow never fought each other. It is Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. I've never loved a fight so much and hated a fight so much at the same time, I think, as this one. I'm just nervous of what we're going to see here from the Zombie because Max Holloway has shown that he hasn't slowed down unless it's Alexander Volkanovski. And I know that you could maybe even say the same thing about Korean Zombie, right? His last was that his last fight? Was Volk? I can't remember if he had a fight after that or not. Yeah. So, maybe you can argue the same thing and tell me to calm down, and I do need to calm down, but I just worry that the volume of Max Holloway is going to really overwhelm Zombie, and we might get an ugly outcome, but hopefully not. I hope it's a really fun fight. So there's my ugly technically, but everything else, I mean, holy shit. Geoff Neal and Ian Machado-Garry is absolute fire. I'd love this opportunity to see what Gary can do. And Geoff Neal just continues to really impress me the more and more that he fights, even in like losing efforts with Shavkat. He had such a great outing in a losing effort there. Sandhagen and Umar, holy shit. It doesn't make any sense, yet it makes so much sense. I'm very, very intrigued in that. I believe Noah brought it up a long time ago when it first got rumored. Umar has not even fought or have a win against a ranked opponent, and now he's fighting against a former title challenger. That was a very loud engine rev up there in Cory Sandhagen.
That was a Hellcat engine if I've ever heard one, Bubba.
And last but not least, Saricam's back, and he's back headlining in Paris, this time against Sergey Spivak. It's not like necessarily the most intriguing of fights, but it is definitely important. And so that is what makes that one kind of cool for me. Noah, give me your thoughts on all these. I know you think differently, specifically on Max and TKZ, if you want to start there.
Well, I'll just go in order.
Okay.
Sandhagen Umar is so fascinating because I haven't had, like, I know this fight's been rumored for a while now, but when it first popped up, like, it's taken me this long. That's been probably 2 months ago that it first popped up as a rumor.
Yeah.
I still have not processed it because it just seems so out there, like such a fake rumor and unlikely. You know, Umar Nurmagomedov, this will be his first ranked opponent, I believe, won't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's Cory Sandhagen.
Cory Sandhagen.
In a main event.
And yet, when the betting lines come out, I don't think Umar is going to be a heavy underdog here.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a favorite. Is that crazy?
I don't know. That's crazy. I mean, let's not get crazy.
I
know he's a Nurmagomedov, but he's yet to fight a ranked fighter.
I know.
Sandhagen will be a slight favorite, and if he's not, Dom, I'm betting on him. I don't care what it is. I will bet against the Nurmagomedov if Cory Sandhagen's an underdog. Just too good of a price to pass up. But that's headlining UFC Nashville. Me and Dominic will probably be going. I'm not saying probably. We will be there.
Hopefully, probably with others. That's the problem.
No, with others. We're putting the pressure on all of us. But I think that's a great headliner. Like, that's the kind of headliners we need more of, Dom.
Oh, yeah. Right up our alley.
Not only has it got banger fight like material written all over it, but it's also just super fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Geoff Neal, Ian Machado-Garry. Geoff Neal showed so much in a losing effort with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Yet he may lose again here against another rising prospect in Ian Machado-Garry. Ian Gary, I think a lot of the questions that I've had, that many have had about him at this point, if you still have him, I think you're just maybe hating at this point. Like, it's okay to have questions about someone. I shouldn't say that.
Sure.
But if you're like, acting like if you're discrediting every win or whatever at this point, he starts D-Rodding around, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and he predicted the way he was going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's legit. He's for real.
Yeah.
It does not necessarily mean he will beat Geoff Neal, though. Like, Geoff Neal showed that he could attack Shavkat, who had looked indestructible, and even have him hurt. Who's to say he can't do the same to Ian Machado-Garry?
Yeah.
This is a fight, unlike the one with D-Rod, Dom. This is one where I'm like going in, actually tempted to bet Geoff Neal and actually love Geoff Neal in that spot. Like, it's
okay.
Unlike the D-Rod one where I like loved it so much I hated it, I don't think I'll get that same feeling with Geoff Neal.
Okay.
But I'm not saying I will.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I won't get that feeling.
Right.
Okay. Max Holloway to Korean Zombie. Look, I know what we're potentially looking at here. I know at worst, though, Dominic, I think this fight's a showcase for Max Holloway, which if you're telling me that at worst you're getting a somewhat of a Calvin Cater type fight or kind of an Arnold Allen type fight, somewhere in between that, that's pretty fun. So,
you're right.
Obviously I hope it's more than that. I hope we get more of that Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway type fight. But you're right. I mean, maybe the writing's on the wall with the Korean Zombie. I just think using the performance where he kind of stepped in later notice against Volk. You look at what Volk did to Max in their last fight. That did not make that. A lot of people thought Max was all of a sudden shock worn and past his prime. And then look what he came back and did with Arnold Allen. So I think Volk is just Volk. And yes, I know Brian Ortega did something similar to Korean Zombie back in 2020. A lot of people kind of forget about that now. But I think the Korean Zombie is going to be game here. I don't necessarily think that means he's going to win. I highly favor Max to win this fight, but I think it's going to be I think at worst, you're looking at a showcase that'll be very entertaining.
That's fair. I like that.
Last one, Saricam, Sergey Spivak, the polar bear, for the first time, a polar bear in Paris, September 2nd. Yeah, I mean, this one just kind of feels like Spivak feels like he maybe had earned a main event spot. Like, he kind of, it's a fresh face in a main event. I mean, I know he main evented against Derek Lewis, but Dominic, that was one of the worst fight nights of all time. The less said about it, the better.
Yeah.
I think this is a kind of main event I'm actually happy to see Spivak get. But let's just be clear about one thing. No matter what our thoughts and how much they've changed on Saricam, if Saricam has not been utterly changed by these two losses he's taken, he should completely run through Sergey Spivak here.
Yeah, that 100% accurate, I think. Yeah.
All right. That's it. So from there, Dominic, we'll move to Blazin Bets. I'm up 4-1. Now, Dominic, we decided to keep going with the competition this week. However, I am not placing a single bet because I'm in the state of Florida. I'm gone fishing.
Yeah.
So I will be back next week. But we decided to do it because basically Dominic just has to have a positive week.
It could be 0.01 units.
Yeah, he literally just has to go positive, which I think through the 5 weeks we've done this, you've gone positive once or twice. So
one time. Yeah.
So I was going to give you a second one, but okay.
Nah, one time.
So in all likelihood, I could win again without doing anything here.
Yeah.
I know Dominic could very easily just bet. He could have bet, Arman Tsarukyan money line straight up and then just called it a day, minus 1,000.
Yeah.
I know he could have done that, but I also know Dominic has he is a man of ethics and honor.
Yeah.
And I know that he will not take a win that way. I know he went exactly how he should with a full bet slip of tough bets that he feels confident in. And I just know he wouldn't take give me victory like that. So Dominic, go ahead and name off your Blazin Bets for the weekend.
Yeah, no, I got 6 with potential to add more.
Okay.
So you described it perfectly. I did treat this as a normal week because there's no better way to get better than treating it like a normal week. I ain't taking no gimme wins. If I lose,
see me back here. I'm relaxing, bro. I'm not even thinking about betting. What's a bet? I ain't never heard of her.
As you should. I wish I was in Florida right now, so I didn't have to bet this weekend, to be honest with you. But we're going to start with the fun thing first, and it's the chalk parlay. It's a 6-leg chalk parlay because Bellator is on the menu for this weekend in MMA. But I did throw in Arman Tsarukyan. I had to throw in the minus 1,000 Arman Tsarukyan. Then we go Cody Law. He's actually the first fight of the night on the Bellator card. So this prelim or this parlay could die very quickly, and that would be such a shame. Jordan Newman, I believe, Noah, is around the minus 2,000 mark, but had to throw him in the chalk parlay. Timur Kizraev, Gadzi Rabadanov, and number 6, Vladimir Guvia, who we got to see last November in Chicago. You put those 6 legs together, it might be chalky, but damn it, we got the plus 102, and that's all that matters. So,
wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, be with me. Enjoy this journey of the chalk parlay with Dom. It kicks off the first fight of tonight, Bellator 297. I guess I'll just do my other parlay for the second bet. I did 2 parlays. This is the second one. Noah called it. Archie Colgan is making his way onto the bet slip for me this week. Hey, he's fighting Emmanuel Sanchez, a guy that's been there, done that. This is the biggest name, biggest competition that Archie's had to face thus far through his first 3 in Bellator. But my goodness gracious, if I am a believer in Archie Colgan. We talked about it the last time he fought, and it's much of the same here. This is his chance to really solidify, I'm here. I'm beating guys that have been through the ringer. I'm beating veterans. I like this spot for Archie. I think he by himself was around minus 265 for those that are interested on what his numbers were. And I parlayed him with Noah Modestus Bukauskas, the first or second fight of the UFC card. He's only like minus, depending on what book, minus 175 to minus 190. And let me make sure who he's fighting against. Sorry, he's fighting Zach Palga, who lost in the tough finale to Muhammad Usman. So that's the fight. I just, people are going to look at Modestus's, run, his initial run in the UFC and those 3 straight losses. But if you really want to dig into that, he had a very close split decision with Michel Oleksiejczuk. And then he had the brutal knee injury to Khalil Roundtree with the oblique kick. He took time away, repaired the knee, became a Cage Warriors champion, and then came back and beat Tyson Pedro in his re-debut, if you will. So I love him in this spot. I could have taken him by himself because he's under the minus 200 line, but I'm so confident. I paired him with Archie Colgan here. That's plus 109 money line parlay. And then I'll blast through these last 4. We have 2 traditional money line plays. Ronnie Lawrence, money line minus 175. He's taking on Dan Argueta, another Ultimate Fighter alum. I just think Ronnie Lawrence, that loss that he had against Sergio Cub, which the UFC cut for whatever reason, that might be one of the worst releases the UFC's ever done. That's a good loss. I know those don't exist, but my goodness, guys, Ronnie Lawrence is a machine, a cardio machine. I think he gets the job done there. And then I went with Manuel Torres. He's fighting Nicolas Malta. That actually should be a banger. I love Torres even by finish in this one, but I went with him money line also minus 175. And then we have 2 fight props. Sabatini Almeida inside the distance minus 175. 67% of fights for Sabatini have ended inside the distance. 14 out of 15 for Almeida have ended inside the distance. I know it's a little bit risky because we've seen Sabatini go the distance, have some decision victories that, are kind of lackluster, but he's a submission ace. And when you have a guy that is kill or be killed in Almeida, I like that recipe there at minus 175. In the 6th and final for now, I very well could add more plays. I actually love some of the bets this week, but this is for the show today. Jimmy Flick and Alessandro Costa under 2.5, just under the Mendoza line, minus 190 is what it came out to there. 73% of fights for both guys have ended at 2.5 rounds. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be quick. And that's really all I got to say. 6 bets on the Blazin Bets portion for me. I could have taken the easy way out. I choose not to do that. I got to make myself get better, Noah. And hopefully when we're on here recapping, it's 4-2 and not 5-1.
That was riveting stuff, Dominic. I listened to about 60% of what you said.
I think Noah thinks he already won.
Yeah, I do. Let's move on to the only segment of the show that we know how to end it on. That's closing statements. The point of the show where me and Dominic talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. Dominic, do you have any closing statements for today? Because mine is going to be MMA related, unfortunately.
Bring it.
Well, I was going to let you go first, but then I was kind of like, if he does something like very lighthearted and fun, it's going to make mine look a lot more, I don't know, dour.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor making headlines, Yeah. Not only for the same damn game that he put the mask out in the hospital, he has been accused of sexual assault by a woman. Mm-hmm. I do not know much of the details. I don't think anybody really knows a lot of details right now, Dominic. I do know the Miami Heat have released a statement, the UFC have released a statement, and Conor McGregor's team have released a statement, of course, denying the accusations. We will talk about this if something comes of this, if there is more of a story to tell here. But for what it is at this point, I didn't feel like it was in either of our best interests to really talk about it on here, because what could we really add to the discussion right now? There's literally very little detail known. Mm-hmm. What I'll just say is it's not good, Dominic. I mean,
of course,
we try to abide by this mindset of like guilty until proven innocent, right? Like that's something as a society That's something that judicially we abide by, right? You have to be proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is that with Connor, this stuff keeps popping up. And
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying it's always this extreme. Sometimes it's punching a mascot and putting him in the hospital. Sometimes it's punching an old man at a bar. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's taking a fan's phone and slamming it on the ground.
Forgot about that.
Sometimes it's trying to fight Machine Gun Kelly at an award show. I mean,
Yeah.
it's then you see him kind of acting a fool, while he's supposedly preparing for a fight with Michael Chandler. You see him out drunker than a skunk,
Yeah.
fucked up, likely on some other stuff. Who knows? All I'm saying is that it seems like for a guy who we've just talked about in our group chat, how 24 hours from now, Dominic, if he is not in the USADA testing pool, he will not be fighting in 2023 unless he's granted some sort of
Like a Brock Lesnar. Thing.
some sort of workaround for that 6
Yeah.
month USADA policy. And yet the things we're talking about with him are all other stuff outside the cage, outside the octagon. I don't know if Connor's going to end up fighting Michael Chandler.
No,
I don't know if he's going to end up fighting at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really matters who he fights, Dominic, because I just don't have a ton of faith. This is my problem. I didn't really say this when I was watching the McGregor Forever documentary. The whole time, they really paint him out to be someone who's so committed to it, who's it's hard because he's rich, he's famous, he's got his hand in all this other stuff, but that at the end of the day, he hasn't forgot where he came from. He hasn't forgotten who he is. He's still just dedicated and wants to be the best in the world. I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
Nothing I've seen from him at all.
Especially this year, right?
Since he beat Eddie Alvarez, Dominic, I have not seen a shred of commitment, full commitment from him to MMA. And that's fine. He's fine. His family's fine.
Right.
His kids will be fine. His grandkids will be fine.
Yeah. But
what's not fine is obviously the spiraling that we seem to be seeing in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if Connor fights, we'll be excited. But Dominic, I do not feel confident that he will win any fight that he comes back for. I just don't. I don't think he has it anymore.
Yeah, and in a way, I think I said this even when I was golfing with the buddies the other day. I think I said that if that fight happens, I'll bet on Michael Chandler because I know he'll be an underdog. At least I would think he would be an underdog. Maybe not, especially now. But I feel bad for Michael Chandler because this fight's not happening. The biggest payday of his life, the biggest opportunity of his life. He gets tough. The Ultimate Fighter, which everybody already forgot is on. There was intrigue for 1 week, and that was it. It ain't going to happen. And the biggest payday of his life is probably right down the shitter in front of his eyes. And I just wonder how he feels watching all this go down and everything going on behind the scenes. So we'll see what happens, guys. It's ugly stuff. It's the ugly side of the sport, but unfortunately it rears its head every now and again, and you can't ignore it. It's part of the community. It's part of the state, so.
I guess my point is, again, this situation with the woman at the game, we don't know if this is true or not. We don't know anything really besides the fact that an accusation's been made and statements have been released.
Yeah.
That's it. But there's a pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pattern of stuff that keeps following him. Accusations and, like I said, all this other crazy shit. If there's enough smoke, there's a fire. That's all I'll say. I'm not saying that fire is that he's sexually assaulting women, but that fire is that he is not the best version of himself right now.
Yeah.
I think that's
it's a shame.
Yeah, it is. But my name's Noah Baker. That's Dominic Sleeve. We are but just two to below average Joes, and we'll see you guys on Monday, more than likely.
Sometime next week.